Hello and welcome to the class of quality assurance, and this subject is in semester 6th of course B Farm. The code of this subject is BP606T, and today again we are going to discuss another very important topic related to this subject. This topic is given under the unit 5 of the syllabus. The topic is calibration and validation, introduction, definition and general principles of calibration, qualification and validation. So, these all things are we are going to discuss here, and I am going to explain all these terms one by one. So, now you can easily understand this topic is one of the very important topic as far as whatever the things that are happening in the inside the pharmaceutical industry. This calibration, validation and qualification, these are the one of the very essential part of the GMP. So, without wasting our time, let us start. So, first of all you need to understand the calibration, qualification and validation. These three terms are basically interrelated to each other, and as you can see in this figure actually shows that these three terms or these three aspects are closely related. For example, qualification is the part of validation, and similarly without calibration the qualification part cannot be completed. So, let us start with the first topic of this lecture, that is calibration first. So, now what is calibration? Calibration can be defined as the set of operation that establish under specified conditions the relationship between values indicated by an instrument or system for measuring. And for example, any equipment can measure weight, temperature or pH. This is for the purpose of recording or controlling or the values represented by the material measure, and the corresponding is known as values of a reference standard. So, now you can here easily understand for the calibration, first of all we need a reference standard, and this reference standard is of a known value. This is known for us, and by comparing the our estimated value with this reference value, we can calibrate any instrument. And next thing, the limits of acceptance of the results of measuring should be established. So, before calibrating any instrument, we have to establish what should be the limit of acceptance of the results. Suppose if any equipment is measuring far more deviated from the actual true value, that means that instrument needs to be calibrated. And so, first of all we need to know about what should be the level of tolerance before calibrating any equipment. And as I have already told, always remember any reference standard is always used in calibration. Now, what are the purpose of calibration? The first purpose that calibration is performed is to ensure the reading from an instrument are consistent with other instrument. So, now you can easily understand for why we are performing calibration. Of course, the first objective should be to ensuring the correctness of the reading that is given by the instrument. Another thing, to determine the accuracy of the instrument, how far the instrument is giving the values from the true value of the any analyte or any substance. So, that is the another by calibrating we are actually solving these two purposes. First thing, we are ensuring the readings from the instrument are consistent with other instrument, and another thing that we are actually here establishing, that is the accuracy of the reading of any equipment. Now, next thing these all are the objectives of calibration. The first objective is to ensure that products are manufactured according to the specifications. So, now you can easily understand, if we calibrate any equipment and using that calibrated equipment, if we manufacture any product, that means it is obvious that if we follow the process well, that means we are actually ensuring that our products will be manufactured according to the established specifications only. So, this is the first objective of calibration. Another objective is to improve the quality of the healthcare services. For example, there are many equipments which are utilized in the healthcare industry, for example, simple BP meter or glucometer. So, this kind of equipment should be, if we properly calibrate those equipment, that means we are improving the quality of the healthcare facilities as well. Third objective is to ensure the patient safety and welfare of human life. So, this is the third objective. Again, if the BP meter is properly calibrated, that means it is actually giving the true value regarding the blood pressure of any patient, and if the blood pressure of any patient is higher, that means then it can be easily controlled. So, this is the third objective, to ensure the patient safety and the welfare of human life. And say you can easily understand through another example. Suppose the weighing balance is not calibrated, that means our whole batch prepared in the pharmaceutical industry will be failed. That is because of the just usage of uncalibrated equipment. That is why the another objective of calibration is certainly to ensure the patient safety and the welfare of human life. The third objective is to increase the quality and the value of any product. So, if you are using the calibrated equipment, that means certainly you are increasing the quality of the services as well as the value of the product that you are gaining after using calibrated instrument. And the fifth objective, it will improve the international acceptability of the test results, and certainly it will be happen. Why it is so? Because suppose if you are using any analytical instrument that is properly calibrated through guidelines, that means the data that is generated through that equipment will be acceptable by the other regulatory authorities of the world also. So, in this way, whatever the data that we are getting from the instrument will be universally will be internationally accepted by the other regulatory authorities if we are gaining those data from the calibrated instruments. And the last objective, it will reduce the technical barriers in trade also. So, these all are the objectives of calibration. Now, next part is the calibration principle. So, calibration is the activity of checking by comparison with a standard the accuracy of a measuring instrument of any type. So, that part we have already discussed. So, I am not going to repeat it again. So, first thing, that is the calibration is actually that kind of activity which is actually performed by using any reference standard only. And it may also include the adjustment of instrument to bring it into align with the standard. So, by measuring the any standard value, we can easily judge how far the equipment is actually producing the result, which is how far it is from the true value. So, that is again the calibration. And even the most precise measurement instrument is of no use if you cannot be sure that its reading is reading accurately. So, these are the things that are related to the principles of calibration. So, now let us proceed to the next topic, and the next topic is the validation. So, now what is validation? The validation is a systematic approach to collecting and analyzing sufficient data to give reasonable assurance and documented evidence that a process or an analytical method will, when operated within specified parameters, consistently produce results within the predetermined specifications. So, this is the simple definition of a validation. So, without performing validation, we cannot ensure that whatever the things that we are getting through the any analytical method or through any process, that this the product is within the predetermined specifications. The validation actually ensures this. Now, next thing that you need to understand, the qualification and validation. The qualification we will discuss in the upcoming session, but the qualification and validation are essentially the same. In many places you can see these terms interchangeably. So, the qualifications and validations are essentially the same, but the term qualification is normally used for the equipment and utilities, and on the other hand the validation is the term that is basically used for systems and processes. So, in this sense, now you can easily understand qualification can be seen as a part of validation processes. So, next thing, so let us discuss the another things. So, now the FDA, according to Food and Drug Administration of US, validation is an essential part of goods practices, including good manufacturing practices, GMP, and good clinical practices, that is GCP. It is therefore an element of the pharmaceutical quality system. It is one of the very essential element of the pharmaceutical quality system. Pharmaceutical quality system cannot be exist without validation. So, the validation as a concept incorporates qualification that we have just discussed in the last slide. The validation cannot be complete without the qualification of instrument or process or facilities. So, validation as a concept incorporates the qualification, and it should be applied over the life cycle of, for example, the applicable product, process, system, equipment or utility. Now, the next thing is the principles of validation. The execution of validation should be in compliance with regulatory expectations. The quality, safety, efficacy must be designed and built into that product. Now, you can easily understand these three aspects: the quality, safety as well as efficacy. These three things should be inbuilt into the pharmaceutical product, and for that validation practices are there. We have to perform the validation studies to ensure the quality, safety as well as efficacy of the any pharmaceutical product. Now, quality cannot be inspected or tested into the product. We cannot ensure the quality of any pharmaceutical product just by testing the end product. We have to be proactive, and we have to establish such kind of studies through which we can ensure the end product will be of better quality or with predetermined specifications. So, that is actually validation. Now, quality risk management principle should be applied in determining the need, scope and extent of validation. The ongoing review should take place to ensure that the validated state is maintained and opportunities for continuing improvement are identified. So, the next part is qualification. So, qualification is part of, but not limited to, a validation process, and which in turn can be divided into installation qualification, operational qualification or performance qualification. The action, so now what is the definition of qualification? Qualification is the action of proving and documenting that any premises, systems and equipment are properly installed and or work correctly and lead to the expected results. So, this is the simple definition of qualification. So, qualification is often a part, especially in the initial stage of validation, but the individual qualification steps alone do not constitute the process validation. That we need to understand. Individual steps that are performed in the qualification cannot constitute the overall process validation. So, that we have already discussed, this clearly shows that qualification is a part of validation. So, now here you can see the qualification is basically divided into 4 different types. The first type of qualification is design qualification. Then next type of qualification studies are installation qualification, then operational qualification, and last one is the performance qualification. So, these are the 4 different phases or types of qualification studies. So, let us discuss these all types of qualification phases one by one. The first type of qualification is the design qualification. What is this? The design qualification is a verification process on the design to meet particular requirements related to the quality of pharmaceuticals and manufacturing practice. So, after procurement of any equipment, we have to perform the design qualification to ensure that the design of the any equipment is according to our requirement or according to the specified specifications that are that solves actually our purpose. So, that is actually design qualification. Now, next part is the installation qualification. So, installation qualification is a verification process for qualification of system that includes software and the ancillary part installed as per instructions. So, after design qualification, we have to perform the installation qualification of any equipment. So, in this installation qualification, actually we are ensuring the proper installation of any equipment and the availability of the all kind of utilities or the softwares or the ancillary equipments that are related to the proper functioning of any equipment. For example, in the case of UV spectrophotometer, we need to install the software in the computer first, and after that software will be connected and to the system, and the system is having another requirements. For example, the cuvettes are there and other software proper installation procedure should be there. So, these all are the things that are related to the installation qualification of UV spectrophotometer, and we are actually ensuring these things in the IQ only. Another thing, that is OQ. The next part of the qualification is operational qualification. So, now in the operational qualification, we are actually ensuring the consistent performance of the system as per operator's requirement within operating range is specified by manufacturer. So, after the proper installation, actually we are operating the equipments, we are actually clearly demonstrating the equipment that all the accessories, all the parts are properly functioning. And after that, in the performance qualification, we are verifying and documenting the performance of the system functioning properly day to day within the specified working day. So, this is actually performance qualification, and in this case basically we are actually we are judging the actual performance of the our equipment under the circumstances in which its actual use. Now, next thing is the requalification. Now, what is this requalification? Requalification is basically performed after modification to or the relocation of any equipment. Now, there may be a minor changes or changes having no direct impact or final or in process product quality. Now, you need to understand another very important thing, that the qualification and validation cannot be considered of once off exercise. For example, the startup of a new manufacturing operation and ongoing program should follow its first implementation. The qualification and validation should be performed for the new premises, equipment, utilities and systems and processes and procedures when changes are made depending on the outcome of the risk assessment, and where necessary or indicated based on the outcome of the periodic review. Now, next thing is the process validation. Now, what is process validation? According to FDA, process validation is establishing documented evidence which provides a high degree of assurance that a specific process consistently produces a product meeting its predetermined specifications and quality attributes. And this process validation is of basically 4 different types. The first type of process validation is prospective validation, and which is also known as pre-market validation. The next type of a validation is retrospective validation, and the third type of validation is concurrent validation, and the last type of process validation is revalidation. So, these all are the 4 different types of process validation that are performed in the pharmaceutical industry. So, this prospective validation is another, it is also known as pre-market validation. Basically, it is performed for the any new product or the new process. Retrospective validation is actually performed for any established process which is already established or well known, but that was not formally validated. And third thing, that is concurrent validation, is to ensure the ongoing production is within the stage of control or not. And the last part, that is revalidation, is actually performed after some specified time or some specific changes. And what are the needs for validation? Validation is required to meet the following requirements. The first thing, it assures to assurance of the consistency of any process. Second thing, obviously that is a government regulation that you have to perform the validation in the validation of your process properly. Then third thing, that is a process optimization, and the fourth part is the economic consideration and cost reduction. So, if you have any process that is properly validated, that means there is a less chance of failures, and obviously there will be a overall cost reduction, and you can save more energy and more material from it, and that's why overall you can easily understand it will be proved to be economic only. Now, what are the different advantages of validation? It reduces the risk of regulatory and regulatory non-compliance, and it may result in reducing time to market of a new product. It reduces the chance of product recall from the market, eliminate the scrap and reduces the defect cost, and it makes process better understood and may require less in process control and end product testing. So, these all are the advantages of this process validation. So, this is all about the topic. Hope you all have liked this video. So, thank you friends. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.